The Honorable Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Supreme Court.
The House will come to order.
The Senate will come to order.
Next is item number 1, Senate Bill number 31, an act establishing a commission on judicial compensation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Chairman Coleman.
Mr. Chairman, this bill is before us in an effort to address the compensation of judges and magistrates and justices of our Supreme Court. There is substitute language, and I think, well, actually it's an amendment, so I would propose the written amendment with respect to Senate Bill number 31, which reads in lines 59 and 60, strike submitted and substitute due in lieu thereof. I'd move that amendment.
Second.
The amendment has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Just to comment on the amendment, I think the purpose of the amendment is to bring some definiteness to determining when the clock begins to tick. It is possible, I guess, that a report could be contemplated to be submitted and not submitted, which means that the triggering event just doesn't happen. So consequently, I think people feel that if we substitute the word due for submitted, there will be more definiteness to when the period begins to run. So consequently, I would urge support of the amendment.
Is there any additional discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I will try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passes. Is there discussion on the underlying bill? Chairman Coleman?
Mr. Chairman, the bill as amended calls for the creation of a 9-member commission, and the purpose of the commission, well, the appointments of the commission would be from the three branches of government. The governor would have 3 appointments. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court would have 2 appointments, and each of the leaders of the houses of the chambers of the legislature would have 1 appointment each. The purpose of the commission would be to make recommendations concerning the compensation of justices, judges, and magistrates, as well as administrators within the judicial branch. And I guess the main feature of the bill would be that with the recommendations made by the commission, if the legislature did not act, those recommendations would become law as of July 1st of the applicable year. The recommendations would be made every 4 years, and they would be required, the commission making the recommendations would be required to take into account the factors such as the fiscal situation of the state and cost of living of the state, as well as the rate of inflation. So I think in order to have our compensation structure for judges and others within the judicial branch keep pace not only with those salaries of judges from other states, but also keep pace with the managerial positions within our own state government, that something of this nature might be required. I'd urge passage of the bill as amended.
Is there any discussion? Senator Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been thinking about this issue, this bill, for several weeks now. I've spoken to several individuals about it. I understand it, but I've been struggling with the issue here of our current practice. It's the prerogative of the legislative branch to set judicial pay, and over the past few years, several years, we have not given any judges any raises, and that may be due to it's due to the economy, and that may or may not be appropriate. But I'm troubled by this bill. I appreciate, the proponents and supporters of it, but I look at it as, after much contemplation, that it really should be, we're taking away authority away from the legislative branch and our budget process and taking it out of our control. Now, while we do have the authority to, reject any recommendations of the commission, I happen to think, after much contemplation, that it's best that it remain within our prerogative in our budget process, and maybe all of us, if this is not approved, have to focus on maybe working on some more raises. But over all my tenure here, there were a few other legislators that did advocate for the judges, and maybe no one picked up the baton from two people that have now left the chamber. But I do think that this, in my opinion, takes away the authority of the legislative branch. I think it should remain under the authority of our Appropriations Committee and our budget process. And I, after much thought, think at this point I will vote no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Hetherington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Initially, I have some concerns about this bill, and I think they've generally been expressed. But on balance, I think this is a good bill. It makes the setting of judicial compensation a more predictable and regular and professional thing, and we should do that. There is a tendency, I think, if this goes to the General Assembly, as it has in the past, to put it well down on the list of priorities, because there really is no great lobbying effort on behalf of the compensation of our judges. So not because of any negative feeling, but simply because it doesn't have anybody really pushing for the adjustment of compensation for the judges. It tends to get neglected. I think this is well warranted. It will, as I say, put it on a regular and professional basis, and I would urge support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Shaven.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you a question to the proponent, if I may. I'm rereading the bill, trying to look at my notes from when we looked at this a few weeks ago, and I can't read them. My recollection was that the bill, when it came up, was that if the legislature took no action, then the recommendations are deemed approved. Is that still the structure here? Through you,
Chairman Coleman.
That would be the structure, yes. The recommendations, I think, would be submitted to the legislature, I believe, in May of the given year, and if the legislature did not act, the recommendations would become law in July of that given year.
and through you, because I think
there is an opportunity. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go.
There is an opportunity for the legislature to modify or take whatever action it deems appropriate regarding the recommendations. If, however, as you observed, the legislature did not act, the recommendations of the commission would become law in July of the appropriate year.
And through you, how would the legislature act? Pass a bill? I mean, how do we act to return the serve, so to speak, on recommendations such as this? Maybe it's just my general newness to the body. I mean, how does one do that? Through you.
The recommendations of the commission would be submitted to the legislature. The legislature could put those recommendations, as we do with other commissions, in bill form, and either vote to approve them, vote to reject them, or modify the recommendations in some manner or another. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Shaven?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm still, I guess, perhaps to Senator Doyle's point, I'm a little concerned that things get approved by sitting silent, although I understand that why the mechanism's there, because the flip side is nothing's getting approved. I'm going to vote yes on this today with a intent to continue my thoughts on it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was thinking about this bill as well, and at first I was concerned about the silence language as well. A failure to act means it gets approved, but the more I thought about it, the more I liked it, because, as you all know, I'm new to this session, but last year, at the end of the session, there were so many bills that were just put before the chamber with a flurry of activity that it was almost, it was difficult to comprehend and actually realize what was going on. And it's easy for something to get lost because everyone's in a push mode to get their particular bill through the House to the Senate to be voted on to become law. And if by making it silent, that if we do not act, it becomes law, I think it will actually help us to take a look at what otherwise is an issue that's being neglected, and that is the compensation of our judges who work many long hours and into the weekends in many situations. And so I think it requires this body to take a look when there is a recommendation and actually take some action, one way or the other, however it may be, based on the circumstances. But at least we're taking a look at it, and it doesn't just get left on the table because we ran out of time. So for that reason, I'm going to support it.
Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I will not be voting for this bill. I would like to associate myself with remarks of Senator Doyle. Every time we turn around, powers of the House and Senate are being taken away from us. The rate we're going, pretty soon there won't be a General Assembly. There may be an executive branch and a judicial branch, but we'll stand for nothing. I will not support this bill.
Representative O'Neill, did you have?
I share many of Representative Doyle's concerns, and now that Representative Fritz has spoken, I certainly understand her point of view on this, and I sympathize with it to a great degree. The problem that we have with judicial salaries is that we've, at least the last few years, been in the throes of financial stress. Did I say something wrong?
No, please proceed. Sorry.
That it's it seems like it's very difficult, and Connecticut is not alone. Other states in the Northeast, which have had similar financial distress, like New York, have faced the same kind of a problem. I mean, my inclination is to vote yes at this point in time, just so that the General Assembly can have a debate on this issue and decide whether or not it wants to create this commission, rather than to vote to stop the bill at this point in its development. I can explain to Representative Shaban what I think is going to happen with this, and I think it's going to go the same route as arbitrated contracts and other contracts that go through the Appropriations Committee process and then never get voted on by the full House and Senate. That what's going to happen with these reports is that they're just going to go and they're going to sit on the calendar, and no one's going to bring it up for a vote, and so they're going to happen pretty close to automatically. I would say only in the most extreme circumstances, when the state is facing the kind of budget we had last year, perhaps, there might be a hold-off on doing it. because we're facing a huge tax increase, and at the same time saying that you're going to increase salaries for judges who, as far as the average resident of Connecticut is concerned, when you tell them what the compensation is, they think it's probably not too bad. Most people make a lot less than what the judges make every year. It's less than what successful attorneys make. It's less than what federal judges make. It's less than what a lot of judges in other states make. The usual thought is, well, when you talk about the comparing salaries, the judges in Connecticut are not about to all get up and leave and move to New York because the salaries are higher. They're not qualified to become judges in New York, and because they're not members of the bar, the likelihood of more than a handful ever becoming federal judges is small because we have so few. So what the point of the comparison is to understand what salaries are for the same kind of work in other places not too far away. As I said, I hate to see us lose more control over our budgetary process. On the other hand, at some point you do start to lose judges and perhaps applicants, although again, I haven't seen that. There's been a sharp drop-off in the number of people applying to the Judicial Selection Commission over the last 5 years because they just can't afford to become judges. But I guess I believe that this issue probably deserves a full debate by the whole legislature. But I think we should not have any illusions about what we're likely to be producing here. If we do this, the commission will almost certainly be setting the salaries, and the legislature, unless it changes its habits, doing nothing is the habit that we have when we're presented with this sort of situation in the arbitrated awards and contracts and so forth that come through the Appropriations Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Tabersack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to align my thoughts on this with Senator Doyle and others. I have some reservations about what this bill proposes to do. I don't question the issue, the underlying issue, and I think that is important. And I'm going to support the measure today because I think it is worthy of debate and looking at further. I don't know if the way that this bill is currently drafted is the solution to that problem, but I do recognize the problem, and I'll be supporting it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? Well, seeing none, Madam Administrator, could you please call the roll?